Welcome to another episode of It Takes a Viking, the official podcast of the Salem State University Alumni Association. My name is Mike Mitchell, Assistant Director of Alumni Relations here at Salem State. And today, I'm very pleased to have with us a future graduate of Salem State, Sam Lim, a member of the class of 2022, who here at Salem State serves as Senior Graduate Assistant for LGBTQ plus programs in the Center for Justice and Liberation. Sam, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
We're looking forward to talking with you. Sam is a current graduate student here at the university, expected to graduate in the springtime of this year. Is that right?
Absolutely, yep.
And what are you studying here at the university?
I'm in the Master's in Higher Education program, focusing in student affairs.
Terrific. And what was it about that program and Salem State that made you want to come here?
It's quite interesting, actually, with that question. I had applied to 8 different higher education graduate programs after my 2 years teaching, and I got into all 8 of them. And then at the end, I sort of realized after doing all my visits, receiving my offers, I wasn't really in love with any of those 8 options. And they were actually the top 8 programs in the country. I was looking for a place that actually had a stronger commitment to social justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. And I stumbled across Salem State University sort of randomly, actually, in an online search. I did my research on the faculty. The higher ed faculty, the core faculty are all people of color, multiple queer faculty. And I was really just drawn to that commitment to training practitioners who were committed to social justice and diversity and inclusion.
And how have you enjoyed your time at the university so far?
I absolutely love it. I've gotten involved here on campus. I'm the president of the Student Affairs Graduate Association for the HESA program. I'm also involved in the city of Salem. I serve on 3 of the mayor's advisory committees as well.
Wow, that's terrific. So take us through a little bit about what you do in the Center for Justice and Liberation, maybe some of the history with that department and what a day in the office looks like for you.
Absolutely. So last year, I started with what was called the LEAD office, Leadership, Engagement, Advocacy, and Diversity. And that office had formed as a morphing of the Student Activities Office and the Multicultural Affairs Office prior to my arrival here. So in my first year as a graduate assistant, I actually oversaw Greek life and fraternity recruitment. I helped oversee LGBTQ plus programs. I handled the monthly multicultural programs for the Diversity Center, and I handled leadership engagement as well. So there was quite an array of different things. But one of the things that we noticed was that with all the sort of responsibilities that come with an office having both student activities and diversity inclusion, you're really spreading yourself thin with the staff. And we wanted to ensure that both student activities and our diversity initiatives were receiving full strength and focus on both sides. And so this year, we have sort of split in student activities is moving to campus life and recreation, and the Center for Justice and Liberation was born. At the end of last year, I was asked to benchmark multicultural centers at 36 other institutions and author a proposal to the university student life division. That proposal was successful and adopted, and that is how the center was born. As of right now, the center houses our multicultural programs, our LGBTQ plus programs, as well as student-facing social justice, equity, diversity and inclusion trainings and education. For me, an average day, come into the office as a senior GA, I come in at 9 o'clock nearly every day of the week. I'm here, depending on the day, either until 5 o'clock or I have an evening program. I'm in the center working with students who come in for drop-in services to receive support. I primarily handle LGBTQ plus related issues and requests. And then I plan our weekly affinity groups. We meet on Mondays and Tuesdays. And then our monthly events. So we have a monthly event every Wednesday and Thursday. And so we have stuff like karaoke nights, our LGBTQ movie nights, we have our queer yoga that we do. So a multitude of different events. And between all those things, it keeps me busy. So
A lot of great things happening over in the Ellison Campus Center. So one of the things that I appreciate about your role is that it is focused on it includes a lot of different areas, but it's primarily focused on LGBTQ work. And so every October, we acknowledge that what is traditionally a time for National Coming Out Week, Salem State has taken a look at it through a larger lens and established an LGBTQ plus history month. So can you talk a little bit about some of the programs and events specific to the next couple of weeks here in October, especially anything that might be open to the community at large, either online or in person?
absolutely. That sort of came, like you mentioned, we had the week, the National Coming Out Week, but our LGBTQ plus student population has grown significantly. Data suggests that this year is actually our largest LGBTQ plus identifying student population that we've had as a university. And that requires us to ensure that we're supporting those students with enough resources and staff to meet those needs. Part of my re-envisioning was to really make a statement that as a campus community, we're fully committed to supporting our LGBTQ plus students, whether you identify as lesbian or gay, or transgender, non-binary, intersex, or asexual. And we have a multitude of programs, some focus for our queer students of color. We have our queer students of color affinity group. We have our trans and non-binary affinity group. We have an affinity group just for graduate students. We have an affinity group just for bisexual and pansexual students. Those happen, like I mentioned, every week and will continue throughout the month of October. One of the big things that we wanted to do was ensure that we still kept that celebration for National Coming Out Week, but this year we're doing it a little bit bigger. We've actually included multiple campus partners on this. So we're partnering with Sodexo on October 12th, which is we have the Monday off, but it's the National Coming Out Week on that Tuesday. We're going to see rainbow creations in the Sodexo dining hall. We're going to have a DJ outside, an ice cream truck free to students, and there's going to be a banner put up for some Instagrammable installations for students to really celebrate the day. We wanted to create an environment where students could really feel free to be themselves and have pride in who they are and not have to feel that they have to hide any aspect of themselves on the campus. Some other exciting stuff. We have this Thursday on October 7th, our drag queen karaoke night. We had a karaoke night last month. This month for Pride Month, we're bringing in some drag queens. Rumor has it you might see me in drag at some point. Some of the students wanted to see that. But it really will be just a celebration of the culture for our queer community, again, to be able to be out and proud and to make that statement. I think for me, the other really important event that's happening that month, two that come to mind are our coming out stories, which happen a little later in the month with the Alliance, where students can come together to share their coming out stories with support from staff like counseling and health, from the pair office, from myself as the LGBTQ liaison to support our students. And then on October 18th, we have our Rainbow Resource Fair, which is, we do this annually, but we're growing it out a little bit more this year to bring in more campus partners so students can access all the LGBTQ plus programs and services that are available to them, not only here at Salem State, but in the wider community. And the last thing I'll mention on that, I think is quite interesting, is this year, we've been super intentional about partnering, again, not just on campus, but off campus. We have a unique partnership with the PBD Essex Museum this year for two different events. One is an arts related event happening later in the month. And then throughout the entire month of October, Salem State University students with a valid student ID can access the Salem Witch Trials exhibition, which actually talks about LGBTQ plus issues throughout the Salem Witch Trials.
That's a pretty impressive lineup. And I remember obviously as a student here myself, remembering back to those years, it's nice to see how much the support has grown institutionally, both kind of on the micro and the macro level. That's not to say that it was never an inclusive place before, because I think that by and large it was. But just identifying other ways to support students, having dedicated staff members now working on programs that are designed to make the campus feel like a more inclusive place. I think I have to imagine the students probably appreciate it a great deal.
Absolutely.
And I should mention too, we have the student and alumni reception at the end of the month on the 27th, 4:30 in Vets Hall. So if you're interested in checking that out, you can always visit salemstate.edu to just click on news and events to learn more about things that are happening on campus. But one of the things that I like to ask before we close any kind of conversation here on the podcast, Sam, is if you could imagine, if you weren't doing this and you could imagine yourself doing anything else, what do you think it would be?
That's a good question. I think I would be singing opera.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is I used to be an opera singer. I started training, got my first contract at age 12, and performed until I was 21. I gave it up to go into teaching and to go into higher education. But if I weren't in education now, I think I would be singing again and doing that work.
Excellent. And so this spring brings commencement for you. What do you think are some of your next steps that you'd like to take professionally after you finish your education?
That's a great question. I'm actually exploring running for public office, hopefully trying to settle down here in Salem, and maybe looking at a job in full-time in higher ed in the region at an institution, hopefully nearby. So.
Outstanding. Well, I think the future for you is very bright, no matter what you pursue. We're glad to have you as part of the Viking family here at Salem State. And again, visit salemstate.edu. We'll put the link along the bottom of the screen here for any news and events that are coming up specific to National Coming Out Week, LGBTQ History Month, or any other news and events coming up here on campus that are open to the public and the greater community at large. Sam, we want to thank you for your time today. I hope everything goes well this month. And thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mike.
And that was It Takes a Viking with Sam Lim, Senior Graduate Assistant for LGBTQ plus programs in the Center for Justice and Liberation. I'm Mike Mitchell, Assistant Director of Alumni Relations here at Salem State. And until next time, thanks for joining us.